Hi friends, have you ever realized we didn't choose our parents? We didn't choose the place where we want to be born. We didn't choose the color of the skin or how tall we want to be. And for some people, they didn't even choose their own spouse. But somehow, all these factors together make sure where we want to be in our life, right? But there is one thing, one sure thing that we have is to accept all these factors and work towards where we want to be. My dear Toastmasters and guests, raise your hands if you want to be a good leader. Now, tell me what it takes to be a good leader. Meaning, what is the skill and quality to be a good leader?
Clarity of thought.
Huh?
Clarity of thought.
Clarity of thought.
Understand the people.
Humility, understanding people, empathy, motivate.
You have to
Communication and
do what others,
Communication and empathy.
what you expect others. You have to do what you expect others.
Giving you example.
Living
Yeah,
by
leading by
example.
example. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So these are all different. So I went on to this rabbit hole to find out what is it one thing which makes a person a better leader. So I went through a lot of different leadership styles. So to summarize it, like let's say I had different leadership styles in x-axis and different qualities and skills in y-axis. And fill in the remaining boxes. There was one thing which was very clear, and that is communication was a key for any type of leadership style. Okay. So to give you an example, in 1983 when Kapil Dev went to the game, the finals of World Cup, just before the game in the dressing room he gave a speech about the importance of the game, and he said something in the lines of they have already won with the West Indies team once and they could win it again. So I don't know the full speech, but it was in somewhere in those lines. And still some people say that was a key reason why they went out, even though they were an underdog team and West Indies was in a very good position, they still went it and won the match, and the rest was history. So a good speech, a good leader always has a good communication skill. There are different types of speech. It could be informational, inspirational, comical, persuasive, motivational. But there is one type of speech I think we all have to give at least once, if not more. And that is inspirational speech. Because you could be a college student, you could be new to the workforce, or you are a veteran in your field. But there is always somebody who looks up to you for yours. And there is an opportunity you have, whether you can inspire them or you could just be someone they just know. So today, my speech is going to talk about inspirational speech and how to give inspirational speech. Before going to the actual speech, I had one question in my mind. What is the difference between inspirational speech, motivational speech, and persuasive speech? Can anyone guess, try? Or anyone had this question with you? Please.
Persuasive speech means you would give a call for action and you want the audience to do some specific action. And inspirational speech means overall share your life story and make the audience to themselves internally.
Okay, so I had this confusion. I was very curious. So again, like everyone else, I tried to find out. So inspiration is something about you instill hope. Motivation is about calling for action, and persuasion about trying to change somebody's mind or behavior. So if it is confusing, I'll give an example. Steve Jobs gives inspirational speeches, Barack Obama gives persuasive speeches, and Tony Robbins gives motivational speeches. Okay, so if it is still confusing, that's okay because it took me a lot of time to understand. The idea what I'm trying to say here is to know the difference so that it will help you to write your own speech better. There is very slim line, some of the speech will overlap, that's okay. But knowing that there is a difference will help you to plan a speech properly. So now let's go to the actual part of the speech. An inspirational speech is similar to any other speeches. It will follow a typical speech pattern like a beginning, middle and end. It follows all the speech enhancing parameters like voice modulation, body language and everything. So for this project, for this context, I'm going to take 3 critical points which I think is going to help to give a proper inspirational speech. The first one I'm going to talk about is have one clear message. Okay? So when you try to write a speech, we often get carried away. We put in a lot of content, especially being a Toastmasters. You add a lot of content and it will dilute the message what you want to say. So a good speech should have one message and try to build a whole story around it, and not the other way around, where you write the whole story and then try to come up with a solution or a message. Have you seen people giving reviews of Kamal Haasan movies? You know, they'll say, movie nalla irundhuchu, but I don't know what he's coming to say. So that should not be our case, right? So we should have a clear message. That is the main key. So here I'll give you an example. Before the example, the objective when we give the speech, it should be like at the end of the speech, you pick up any audience, you ask them what is the speech about. They should be able to tell in one sentence, okay, this is the speech, and that should be our goal when we try to write an inspirational speech. So here, I'll give an example. All of my 3 points as an example, and I pick the example in such a way that you can go home and watch it in YouTube or read about it. So the first example here is one of my favorite speech by John F. Kennedy. He gave it in 1962, a speech called "We Chose to Go to the Moon." Okay, so the speech will go on something like, "We chose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." And he goes on to talk about it for another 20 minutes. If you see the speech, the message is very clear. We chose to go to the moon, right? But let me tell you the technology we had in that time. People had dial-up phones, right? You have seen dial-up phones, and people had vinyl records, and people had black and white TV. That was the technology which was available that time. For a country like India with all the technology now, even sending a person to moon right now is not easy for us. But John F. Kennedy had that vision in 1960. Now think about in the perspective of the audience. When the audience came to know a young president saying something like that, it was mind-blowing for them. They didn't know how to react. It was truly inspirational. Now think about it, he actually won by a very narrow margin. He won by 1%, and he comes from a very wealthy family. Now if he had come and told, okay, all of you guys have to work very hard, and we have to make more money, we have to make America great, and now it is great again. That was great, no? So we have to make America great, and that wouldn't have gone well. I feel that wouldn't have gone well with the people. Instead, he gave an idea, he gave a vision saying, we chose to go to the moon. Now look at the choice of words. He didn't say, I want to go to the moon. Normally that's what we say, no? We want to go to the moon, we want to do it. No, he said we chose to do it. That is something he chose. Like, I chose to wear a blue shirt. Something that easy is what. So when he came and gave a, idea like that, people were blown away. They were so impressed, and that's what changed everything. So, in fact, the reason why we call moonshot idea, heard about it, that came from this guy who chose an idea which was so big, it became a moonshot idea. So, bottom line, what we need to have is one clear message we need to have when we prepare for an inspirational speech. Now let's go to the second point which I want to make. This is about sharing a personal story. Why personal story, you might ask? Because personal story connects with the audience better. Whatever the hardship you have gone through, people will be able to feel your shoes, be in your shoes and understand that. So that rapport will come when you share your personal story. When a fat guy talks about weight loss, or a person with generational wealth talk about entrepreneurship, people cannot relate. But we all heard stories of how Ramaraj owner or Achi Masala owner went every street selling his product every day, and then eventually they succeeded in life. We all still remember that story right now. That's because it had a personal story over it. I'll give you an example here also. This is by Steve Jobs in 2008 in Stanford. He gave a commencement speech. That is for the students who are graduating. He gave a speech. This is a very personal speech he gave, and he gave the speech in 3 parts. He said the 3 things. One is about connecting the dots. Second is about love and fear, and that was about death. in connecting the dots, he spoke about his time. He was from Stanford. He studied there. He was a dropout. When he was studying, he took a calligraphy class. Anyone know what calligraphy is? It's about writing. So if you write A like this, and you could write in a different fashion. So the fancy way of writing. And then he dropped out of Stanford, and then he went on to co-found this Apple, and where they made Macintosh computers. So when they were making computers, they brought in those beautiful fonts what we see today, and that was only possible because when he was young, he took calligraphy classes. And he jokingly said how Microsoft stole those fonts from them and they used it. So that's one of the reasons why all of our screens now look beautiful, because that day Steve Jobs attended one of those calligraphy classes. So what he says is we can only connect the dots looking backwards and not to the front. And he's asking students to follow their dreams and go on in the journey. The second thing he talks about is love and fear. So here he talks about a time when he was fired from his own company he co-founded, Apple. Then he goes on, he gets a little depressed, then he goes on, he starts two new company. One was Next, another one was Pixar. Pixar is the company which makes the Toy Story movies, right? And after some time, they bring him back to the Apple, and he becomes the CEO. They buy those two companies. And he says those 3 years, a few years he spent in those company are one of the most creative time he has ever had. And he thinks that, he tells the students that you live your own life and don't try to work for somebody else's dream and follow their passion. That is the key message he is telling from the second story. The third story he is talking about is death and mortality. This was the time when he was diagnosed with cancer. And this is the time when he is actually getting better and he is almost cured. He says as if he has cured the cancer in the speech. And he talks about this hardship of going through this journey of being in cancer, the treatment he is taking, how the toll it has on his health and everything. I can actually see from the video that when kids are seeing this, some of them were crying. Because Steve Jobs was like an icon for them. He proved to people that being a nerd was one of the fancy things to have. And when a billionaire with so much wealth, so much who has done for the technology, is showing his vulnerability, and those students were able to relate it, and some of them are crying in the videos. So when I was watching, I was also too impressed on the way he spoke. So he says one thing here is live every day as your last day, and that idea made him change his whole life on how he handles the office and everything. So these are the three stories Steve Jobs says, and what we can learn from that is, we cannot give a story like Steve Jobs that we all know, right? But there is a personal story for Prasad. There is a personal story for Vishnu, right? We can share that, and I'm sure the audience will be able to understand that personal story. Okay. Now let's go to the third point, which is show emotions. See, I'm not talking about vocal variety or body language alone, but I'm talking about emotions as a whole. So when you give an inspirational speech, emotion is very key. Sometimes we think emotion for inspirational speech maybe not required. Maybe for a humorous speech, we need to show emotions, right? I thought that too, until I start doing this project and start to write. I realized emotions is key, very important when it comes to an inspirational speech. For this, I'm going to tell another story. And this story is something most people have not spoken about. It's a controversial figure. I'm going to talk about Adolf Hitler. See, not many people talk about him for obvious reasons, but I'm going to focus on the way he has given speeches and how he has captivated his audience. If you see, Adolf Hitler uses four key elements when he gives a speech, when it comes to showing the emotions. See, the people who gathered for him are like in thousands, so many. So when he speaks, he has to make sure that everyone has to listen. So that time they had microphones, so people will be able to listen, but they will not be able to see his emotions. So he used all these The four elements which I'm going to share is what he used to exemplify his emotions to reach the audience. The first one he did was showing hand gestures. The famous one, this you can all think of, heard it somewhere or seen it somewhere, right? So this one is not for the person in the first row. This is for the person who's sitting in the very last or standing in the very last trying to see who Hitler is and what he's going to deliver. So when he made that motion, when he pounded his fist on the dais, and that people could hear, and that showed him how serious he is when he's delivering the messages. The second thing he does is start very slow, and then when there is an important thing, he raises his voice, and that shows the importance of the words what he is saying, and that gets to the audience very quickly. The third thing he does is using pauses. Pause is very important things, especially for a politician when he has to give both sad message, inspiring message, a lot of other messages as well. So he used pauses very well. He let the message sink into the audience and then he moves on. That is one reason to use pause. And second reason, you can, whenever there is a cheer also, you pause. For some people can predict when the cheer is going to come. You pause, let the people cheer, and then move on. That's what Adolf Hitler has done in many of his speeches. He has also used rhymes. Like rhyme is like a cherry on a cake. It adds beautiness to the language what he did. So he used rhymings again, the whole speech was in German. I'm just giving you from the translation whatever I got and whatever people say. But that's how it was. So he used rhymes to his advantage, and we can also do that. We have seen. And finally, the last one, what he did was facial expression. And this is something which confused me. How facial expression was important, and I thought about it for some more time. Now, normally, like say Mr. Bean, right, one of the most humorous guy, does he have facial expression? No. Does he give facial expression, Mr. Bean? No, he doesn't do anything. He's still, but everyone around him laughs, or whoever is watching is laugh. I thought facial expression was very important for comedy, but no. But it is even more important when it comes to an inspirational speech. Because inspirational speech is about originality, it's about honesty. So if you don't show honesty on your face, then the audience will not be able to relate to it or understand full of it. And Hitler knows exactly that, and he has used all these facial expression to show their audience the importance of the speech. So overall, to summarize, there are three key elements when you need to know when you are preparing for a inspirational speech. The first one is have one clear message. The second one is share a personal story, and third, the most important one is show emotions. Okay. So leadership is not about position. It's not about that corner office where it is. It's not about the authority you have. It's about ability to inspire people. Because when you inspire, you don't just change the mind, you change the world. Thank you. So, yeah, my time is done, but I would like to take Q&A. I have some time. I would like to take Q&A. This project doesn't call for Q&A, but I have time and I am interested. If you guys have any question, you can ask me.
Why it takes a lot of time to become a better speaker?
Anything related to inspirational speech?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why it takes a lot of time to...
If it was easy, everyone would do it. Then the average, the benchmark what you have is not
Do you
there.
have any minimum time frame for that, like 2 years, 3 years, or 1 year?
You don't have, you cannot, it's not quantifiable, it's a skill. Can you become A.R. Rahman in 3 years?
Yeah, with the help of AI, I can do it.
Please go ahead and become A.R. Rahman. Thank
Just
you.
trying to...
How important is a story for expression speech?
It's very important. One reason I will tell you is most of the inspirational speech I have listened to always had a story. Because story, people love story. Right from your childhood till now, even now, people love story. And it's the way you can carry it. We heard about our grandma telling stories, our mom telling stories. Why do we tell stories? Because it's a way we pass on the messages. Why do even our religion has a lot of stories? Because that's the way the information is passed. So people will be easy to remember the stories and thereby also remembering the messages. So telling stories is very key. Anybody else, any questions?
How did you prepare for this? How long did it take for you?
Very good question. So I had to write, I was procrastinating for a very long time. I had this idea, I wrote almost 70-80% of it. And for more than 6 months, I would say. And I was telling myself that I don't have time and all those things. And I realized it is enough is enough. I prepared well or not, I'll have to give. So I took a long time for this.
How will you quantify any story to bring into the inspirational?
That is exactly the thing. You cannot bring the story to the content. You go take the message and find a story which matches to it. Not find a story and then come up with a message out of it. So you know you have a message. This is what you want to deliver, right? Try to find stories to start. The way how I find stories is there is a lot of stories online. Okay, there is even in Tamil there is this Venkachiko Swaminathan. He will tell the story out of anything. Okay. And we have this ChatGPT. ChatGPT is pretty bad, but if you try to Google it stories and then you will easily find it. You just need to spend some time. But you can use. By the time you read, one more thing which I do is I try to write down. I have a note. I have an extensive note. I have so much story linked to the topic. So that you can do if you are interested. I'm interested too much on that, so I'll do it. Yes. Very nice, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.